Start recording.
Awesome. Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. I'm Nia again, if you don't know. And I just wanted to thank you guys before we get started for coming here today for the Fours Up for Feminism event for 16 Days of Activism fundraiser. So yeah, thank you so much. And I'll let Savannah take it away.
Yes, so my name is Savannah. If you don't know, Nia and I started this club together, and we're so thankful for all of you that are here today, and especially our two guest speakers, Katrina and Colleen. Thank you guys so much. That being said, we're now going to be having our first speaker, Katrina from the Global Network of Women Peace Builders.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Savannah and Nia, for inviting me. I'm quite excited to be here today. My name is Katrina. I'm based in Canada, but I work remotely for the Global Network of Women Peace Builders, so GNWP, which is based out of New York. And we are a global network of over 100 women and youth and young women's organizations across the world. And we work primarily in conflict-affected areas with local partners who live in those areas. I was asked to explain a little bit of what the Global Network for Women Peace Builders does because some of the work that Nia and Savannah have been leading is part of a fundraiser for GNWP's partners and work that they're doing. So we have a four-pronged approach at the Global Network of Women Peace Builders. The first is something called the full cycle implementation. And so at the United Nations, which is where we work to bring the United Nations to people on the ground and people on the ground to the United Nations, there's something called Security Council resolutions. And so this is where the Security Council come together and propose, essentially, if you want to see it that way, bills, but they're called resolutions. And when they're passed, they become international law. And so 20 years ago, on October 31st, 2000, there was the first international law on women, peace, and security. So recognizing the role women play in peace and security around the world and the protection and participation that needs to be protected for peace and security and sustainable peace to be successful. So that's one of the major things that GNWP does, is to make sure that this resolution and the others who have followed in the last 20 years is implemented and that the women on the ground are actually benefiting from this international law. Recently, and actually it's funny in terms of timing, because on December 9th, it'll be the anniversary of the 5th anniversary for the resolution on youth peace and security. So a similar resolution to women peace and security, but this one is focused on young people and the role young people play in conflict and the conflict resolution and prevention of conflict. And so GNWP in the last few years, given the adoption of this resolution in 2015, has started to integrate some of that work in terms of building coalitions, building partnerships to make sure that young women are also at the forefront of the peace negotiations, implementing peace, and making sure that governments are actually fulfilling their international law duties. That's part of the work that GNWP does. The other thing that we do is that we actually amplify the work. We don't see our work as empowerment in the sense that we have all the answers. We see the work as amplifying the work of the young women and the women on the ground who already do a lot of the work that a lot of the times just doesn't get the attention it deserves or the resources that it deserves, which is also why this fundraiser is so important to us, because a lot of work, especially in peace, but even more so for women and young people, is underfunded or not funded at all. And so we amplify the voices in multiple ways. We do that primarily by bringing women and young people to the United Nations or international spaces to make sure that their voices is heard firsthand and that we're not the ones speaking on their behalf. We're actually sharing their voices from themselves so that they can make sure that they're heard clearly and that decision makers and governments are able to actually see and hear the tangible results or lack thereof of what their policy decisions and funding decisions are. So that's very important. And obviously that brings on a lot of policy work that we do. And then the other thing that you might find a little bit more interesting, because policy work for some people can be quite boring or difficult to wrap our heads around. The other thing that we do is in terms of our specific program called the Young Women Leaders for Peace. So we do this program in 8 countries around the world. So in Afghanistan, Bangladesh, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Indonesia, Myanmar, the Philippines, South Sudan, and soon Colombia, Kenya, Rwanda, and a few other areas. And we do this with refugee women and non-refugee women as well. And this is about them learning the international laws that I was talking about a little bit earlier, but also about leadership. So recognizing the role young women have in peace includes having them feel like they can be leaders in themselves and recognizing the leadership roles that they already have and they already play in their communities. And so the Young Women Leaders has been actually really helpful and quoted by the UN as a best practice on how to make sure that young people are actually being included in peace negotiations and processes, and that their meaningful engagement is respected and uplifted. And so that's one thing that we do. And then the last major pillar of our work is in terms of humanitarian action. And this is also quite new because humanitarian action, as you probably know, with, for example, the Red Cross or with these really big organizations that help in disaster relief or in these different types of situations that are inevitable, often don't take gendered approach or no approaches with regard to age. And so usually it's just general, giving food, giving relief when there's a disaster that happens. But we come in with a different approach that we think that disasters are not, just for 6 months. People have to live with the impacts of humanitarian disasters or different devastating impacts on their lives essentially happen for longer than just 6 months to a year. And so we work with local people, especially local women and young women, to make sure that there are programs in place for them, by them, to make sure that they can sustain their lives and become successful and be able to thrive despite the hurdles that they've lived. So that's a little bit about the Global Network of Women Peace Builders, but I've also been asked to explain a little bit more about what the 16 Days of Activism is. And so the 16 Days is a global campaign led and initiated by UN Women. So UN Women, as you likely know, is the UN body that is responsible for gender equality and women's rights. And they've also started to include a lot of youth rights in there. But they launched this campaign 20 or 30 years ago to essentially raise awareness about gender-based violence. And so the campaign runs from the 25th of November to December 10th. And the reason for that is because November 25th is the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. So that's why they launched it on that day. And they close it on December 10th because December 10th is Human Rights Day. And so showing that gender-based violence is not only about women, it is primarily impacting women, but it's not only about women, it's about all of us. Hence why they decided to end it and close it on Human Rights Day, which is about all of us. And what you can do to get involved with the 16 days, obviously being here is a really great step. And great shout out to the club for taking this on as one of your activities. But other things that you can do is you can help participate in the campaign by oranging the world. So that's kind of what the campaign motto is to promote and hold activities or events or even engage online and really use the color orange to spread the message and to be in solidarity with those who are impacted by gender-based violence and those who work hard to eliminate it and to help survivors of gender-based violence. And then lastly, I've also been asked to talk very briefly about how you as young people, and I see most of you, I'm assuming, identify as young women, can get involved in this type of work. And I know, I'm a young woman myself, and I know it can be quite daunting because it seems quite out there, or it's just this international thing that's not necessarily relevant to me. But really what I would say is that it's very relevant to all of us. I mean, in Canada, some people tell us that peace building or peace is not relevant, or that we're not in a conflict country, and similar to the United States, we have similar realities. But a lot of us argued that unless you're living in something called positive peace, you're not living in peace at all. So there's a concept called negative and positive peace, which essentially means that negative peace is where you live in a state where there's no overt violence or war. And what a lot of us as peace builders are trying to do is get to the state of positive peace where everyone has human rights, everyone has social justice, and all of our rights are being fully implemented and respected, and everyone can thrive. And I would argue that in both Canada and the United States, we've clearly seen that that's not the case. You know, with the Black Lives Matter movement, with all of these different social justice movements going on, it's clear to me, or at least to, I hope, to all of you as well, that we're not living in a positive peace environment. And so what you can do is obviously raise the awareness of how young people are shifting the tides. I mean, Black Lives Matter is a great example of how young people have really gone to the forefront and not taken this discrimination and the lack of accountability for face value. And the other thing you can really do to get involved more broadly in terms of the UN work on this is with something called generation equality. So in 2020 and 2021, UN Women has launched their Generation Equality, literally the hashtag Generation Equality. And it's a very multi-layered campaign to promote gender equality and to recognize young people's involvement in that. And this is to celebrate something called the Beijing Platform and Declaration for Action, which came out of the 4th World Conference on Women in 1995. And so this year was the 25th anniversary, and so that's what prompted this campaign. But it's continuing with 2021 and beyond, and so you can get involved by following on social media with the hashtag Generation Equality, getting involved in the multiple different events and activities happening across the world. UN Women has national youth activists working on this campaign, and so you can touch base with these people. I'm one of them, and I'm very happy to connect you with your US representatives if that's of interest to you. And Savannah has my contact information. And then the last thing I think would be really important for you if you're interested in getting involved with this gender equality work or UN work or anything that has to do with international work within gender or youth activism is to volunteer and be part of these coalitions. So I mentioned way at the beginning the Youth, Peace and Security agenda that was adopted in 2015. Well, so there are multiple youth-led coalitions, one in the US particularly, for youth, peace, and security to promote all of this stuff that I've just talked about. And there are ways for you to get involved and to either volunteer or eventually work for some of these organizations who are working towards promoting peace within the US and within other regions and partnering with other coalitions. And so if you're interested in that also, I think that's a really great way to get involved if you really are keen to do that. And so I'll turn it back over to you, Savannah, but if there are any questions about anything I mentioned or anything about the UN or any of this crazy world, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Wow, Katrina, that was really awesome to hear everything that you just said. And really quick, could you just go over, so as you guys all know, we've been doing a fundraiser for the past, I don't know what day of the 16 days we're on right now. And so far, a lot of you guys have donated to the Venmo fundraiser, and we've just hit $300, which is awesome. I'm really happy, and thank you guys all for donating. And that being said, Katrina, could you just go over a little bit about where the Giving Tuesday fundraiser money is going and where the direct donations to the GNWP website money is going. And if you guys want to check it out, I will send the GoFundMe link in the chat.
Yes, thank you, Savannah. Thank you for the reminder. So all of our current fundraisers are going towards two things. The first is the COVID response. So as you have likely noticed or probably know, women and youth have been at the forefront of COVID response in many areas. A lot of that has come out of the fact that countries have not responded very well to COVID or haven't put in different programs that have truly helped those who are most marginalized. And so many of our young women, especially, and women in different countries like the Philippines, Kenya, South Sudan, Colombia, are actually distributing things called dignity kits. And these are kits with menstrual hygiene products, food, different things that you don't need to use water for, but you can wash your hands with, and disinfectant, and all of these different very life-saving things for those who are living in marginalized communities. And so that's where the money mostly is going to. And then with other types of money that we're able to raise, we're always able to support projects that our local partners are doing. So, for example, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, our young women, obviously, like most of us, are quarantined in their homes, or at least trying to quarantine in their homes. But it's very difficult because most of them don't have access to technology like we do, or at least not the same level as we do, and they don't have stable internet in their rural communities. And so the money that we're able to raise, we can help them buy what they call data sets, and so they're like prepaid phones, if you wish, so that they can communicate with the world, and they can continue going to school or continue doing this type of work that they do to try and continue their lives despite being in quarantine in areas where internet is not stable or available.
Awesome. Thank you, Katrina. If you'd like to ask Katrina a question, could you use the raise your hand function so I can call on you? Shannon, would you like to go first?
Yes. Hi, Katrina. I'm Shannon. Thank you so much for being here. I just had a question about the generational equality you were talking about. I know you mentioned there were like many events and activities. What like in specific are some like the bigger events and activities that we could like participate in?
That's a great question, Shannon. Thank you. So Generation Equality has at first had two main large events. So the first was because it was supposed to be in 2020, but now because of COVID, they pushed it to 2021, is a global forum in Mexico City to talk about the commitments to that platform for action I was mentioning about women's rights. And then the second is another global forum in Paris, France in July. And so those are two major ways to get involved if you want to actually go to them. But they'll also have very big online components to them because obviously with COVID, 2021 is still quite up in the air in terms of travel and all of that. And then there is a website, which I can share in a second, which is called the Youth Journey for Generation Equality. And on there, there's a lot of information on different activities and events, including activities and events that will be hosted at the UN Commission on the Status of Women, which happens every year in March. And so there'll be a few different events during that time. And you can also talk to your Beijing Plus 25 youth representative. I think there's one or two members of the youth task force from the US, and they will have awesome ways for you to get involved, more so than what's already online. And they'll be able to help you if you want to get involved in those different ways. So I'll share with you the link. And also, if you want to contact me because you're personally very involved and or want to be very involved, then we're more than happy to have you on board.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Kayla?
Hi, my name's Kayla, and I was just wondering what inspired you to become a peace activist and like a peace builder in general.
What a question. Well, then I guess a little bit about me. So as I said, I'm from Canada, and I'm actually from Vancouver, so not too far from California. But I'm right now in the capital of Canada, in Ottawa, so on the East Coast. And I first was inspired to get involved with this type of work because as a French speaker in Canada, where there's a lot of tensions between the Anglophone and the Francophone in Canada. And so that was the first kind of learning for me in terms of what it means to be a minority, or what it means to be in a place where people discriminate against you because you're not like the norm, or because you're out of the majority group. And so that prompted that from obviously a very young age. And Savannah even says to me, wow, you don't sound like a French person. I mean, when you grow up in an English-speaking place, but your first language is something else, people don't necessarily know, but it's quite difficult as a kid. So that was the first part. And the reason why I was particularly interested in working in human rights was because in my school, given the fact that it was a French school, there were a lot of refugees from the Congo. So I saw a lot of struggling and a lot of difficulties for them to integrate in a new country, having gone through war, and some of them coming from Rwanda going through genocide. And so that really prompted the fact that I was so privileged, an interest in me to try and help people and see how I could make a difference in the world. So that's kind of what started my journey. And then I decided to do my undergrad, my master's, and now my PhD in this. And so I've been able to help in different ways.
That's amazing. Are there any more questions before Katrina has to leave?
I'm also going to put the Youth Journey website right now in the chat, as I mentioned.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Katrina. We really do appreciate having you, and sharing all of your information that you had. It was really empowering. Katrina has been generous enough to, you know, we can get in contact with her as well. Oh, my connection is very unstable. I'm sorry. Is it better now? Okay, cool. But yeah, so much. Okay, awesome. If you guys have any other questions or want to learn more, please contact Katrina or go to the website as well. Thank you, Katrina.
Yeah, thank you so much, Katrina. I've had the pleasure of getting to know Katrina over the past couple months working with GNWP, and I don't know, I'm sure you guys could tell by just that small little speech, but Katrina is one of the best in the business, so you guys, we have a lot to learn from her, and if you'd be interested in getting in contact with Katrina and learning more about it, you can message me in the group me, and I'd be happy to ask her for some more info or give you her contact info so you can learn more about GMWP or other things that she does. And that being said, we now have our next speaker, Colleen Ballinger. I'm sure you guys have heard of her. She's amazing, a YouTube, Broadway, and Netflix star. So yeah, Colleen, if you just want to introduce yourself and let us know what it's like to be a feminist for you.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here. And I'm so excited to be a part of this and that you guys have asked me to be a part of this. It's an honor. I think what you guys are doing is incredible. I have been a woman working in this industry for a very long time, and I've had a lot of crazy experiences being a woman, trying to make a living, doing what I love. And feminism is extremely important to me for so many reasons. But I think the biggest reason is that growing up, I didn't even realize that there was inequality between men and women. It was just something that I just accepted as, oh, men are this way and women are this way, and this is how it has to be. And I didn't think there was a problem until I, became an adult and started trying to make my way in the world and realized, wow, there is a huge gap in equality between men and women, and this needs to be changed. And I saw it everywhere. I don't even know where to begin, but I've been touring for over a decade. And that's probably the biggest place I've seen a lot of sexism and mistreatment of me and women in general. I traveled with women. I traveled with my sister and I traveled with my mom. And, most of my fans are young girls. And I was shocked to find that the men who worked in the theaters or the comedy clubs that I would visit were not very inviting or respectful or excited to have a woman tell them what she needed in that situation. I would ask for simple things like, a light, at a certain place, or for my projector to work, or, ask for help finding a certain chord, setting things up. And I would have men scoff at me, call me horrible names, tell me I was an idiot, I was wrong, just because I was a woman. And I just thought these people might have just been grumpy or rude. But then when I started traveling with men, hoping that that would help, I started growing a male team to work with me. I found that the same thing would happen to me, but then once the men on my team asked for the same exact thing I asked for, they would be respected and their questions would be answered. And I was shocked to find that that was happening. Not only that, but I've had a job in the last 5 years, and I don't want to call out what it is or what company it is, but I grew close to one of the men at this job, and we found out that, we eventually talked about our payments, our salaries, and I found out I was being paid significantly less for doing the same exact job as him. I had more experience than him, and I was actually doing more work. I had a higher title, higher positions in the job we were working at, and I was being paid significantly less. And now as a mom, I have a young son, and shopping for toys and clothes and little things like that, I even notice a huge gap in how much things cost. Women are taxed so much more than men, and even things as small that you wouldn't even think of as toys. If I buy a blue toy for my son, it's cheaper than if I buy the exact same toy from the exact same company, the exact same maker. If it's pink, it will cost more money. So women are even charged more from birth just to exist. And so all of these things combined have really lit a fire under my butt to do anything and everything that I can to fix that, not just for women, but for men too. Being a feminist doesn't mean, bring down the men. It means we just want equality. I love men. I think men are awesome. And I think there's also a misunderstanding that feminists hate men and, we just want women are better and deserve more. And that is certainly not it at all. I think men are wonderful, and I think women are awesome, and I think we should all just be treated equally. And so that's why I'm passionate about it, and I'm so proud of you guys for starting this and for doing this, because I certainly was not doing anything like this when I was your age. Nia, who's the one who reached out to me, I was so impressed with you when you reached out to me, because I was like, I was not doing anything like this when I was her age. I think you guys are awesome. So thank you for having me here.
Of course, you're awesome, and we're so happy you're here. Okay, Savannah, you can go. I just had to.
Well, thank you, Colleen. That was really nice to hear about your experience in the workplace and just everything. So actually, one of the questions that we had prepared was already asking about the industry that you were in, and you answered that perfectly. So how, obviously we know that you've been treated unequally in the workplace, so how can you encourage other women, whether or not they plan on going into the industry that you're in or in other industries, to overcome the bias that you've experienced?
Well, I think even though I've experienced it quite a bit, I feel like I've barely experienced it to how much most people experience it. And, before I was part of this industry, the entertainment industry, I was working in restaurants and Disneyland and all these random places. And I didn't just experience, men talking down to me, but I also experienced some scary situations with men trying to take advantage of me in the workplace. And so it's not just, a man calling me a name or scoffing at me or disregarding my feelings, which I've experienced a lot in the industry that I'm in now. Prior to that, in every workplace I've ever been in, there is some form of inequality or mistreatment of women that I've witnessed personally. And I think that the best way to combat this is to do what we're doing right now and talk about it and let other women know that this is happening everywhere and that they're not alone. I think the more we talk about it, the more we're raising awareness of it. I think a big issue is that women are afraid to talk about the things that are happening to them. They're afraid to talk about the inequality out of fear of what will happen to them if they bring it up, fear of getting fired or fear of pissing someone off that they shouldn't piss off, and I think the more we talk about it, the more women will realize they're not alone. And also the more people who are treating us incorrectly will realize, oh, they're talking about this. Maybe we should, we might get in trouble for this eventually, as kind of the hope. But I think being open and honest and having a conversation about it is the most important thing. And also standing your ground and, we're smart. And if you have any sort of drive in the work field that you're in, then you know what's best and you know what's right for your company or for your brand or for your business. And just, if someone's talking down to you and telling you you're wrong, and just stand your ground and stick up for yourself and try your hardest to not let people speak to you that way, which is inherently hard for women or, someone my age, when I was taught that, as a woman, you kind of back down if someone speaks down to you in that way and just go, okay, I'm sorry, and apologize. So that's been the hardest thing for me to overcome, is to not just say like, okay, never mind, I'm sorry, but to be like, no, actually, this is what we need to do right now, and this is why, and explain yourself. That's probably been the biggest challenge I've had, but I think it's really important that as women, we speak up and also stand up for ourselves as much as possible.
Okay, hopefully my Wi-Fi connection is okay now. But but yeah, no, I totally agree with you. One of my questions that I had for you is, why do you think it's so important for people to understand the inequities that women face?
Why is it, sorry, say that one more time?
Yeah, of course. I was just gonna say, like, well, you've already touched on it a little bit, but why do you think it's so important for just people in general to understand the inequities that women face? Like, obviously, there's so that's a broad question, but I was muted. I'm so sorry.
You're okay.
No, but my question, yeah, I'm on now. Okay, my question was, why do you think it's so important for people to understand the inequities that women face today?
Well, there's a million reasons. It's so hard to like narrow that down to one thing, but it's so important for people to know about it so that we can fix it and change it and improve upon it. I think a lot of people nowadays think that there isn't inequality. As we've seen with the Black Lives Matter movement this year, I was shocked to find so many people say, well, there's no racism anymore. We're past that. And because that's a lie. So I think people think the same thing about women's rights and equality. And that's also a lie. I think that there's so much that needs to be done and changed and fixed. And the more awareness we can raise and the more we can have an open discussion about this, the more hopefully we can change this for the future of future generations, and not just for women, for men too. There are so many things that are completely unbalanced and unfair. Obviously, there's a lot of violence against women, and there's pay gaps, and there's just mistreatment in general of women. But there are also things we don't think about that as a feminist I fight for men as well. And, something as little as stay-at-home dads are looked down on and looked at as like bums, because they don't have a job, which is crazy because, women have been doing this for so many years, and we all know it's like one of the hardest jobs in the world to be a stay-at-home mom. So it's, I think, an important way to help people understand that this is an issue is to let people know this fight isn't just for women. Of course, it is primarily for women, but we're trying to fix society as a whole. We're trying to help everyone. It's not just women are better than men and let's fix this. This isn't fair for us. We want to fix it for everybody. There's so many things for every different type of person that we want to fix. And feminism is about equality. And that's what we're lacking right now. And I think that's, an important and good way to get people on board who might think feminism is stupid or crazy or absurd, is to show them that there is an equality in so many different places and kind of relate it to them in a way that they might understand, and let them know that we're fighting for equality and rights for everyone, not just for women to be better than everyone else, if that makes sense.
No, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, feminism is all about equality, and I totally agree with you 100%. But the last question that I have for you personally, which is it's a lighter question, but just, do you have any cool projects coming up that you're excited about that you want to share with people?
Yeah, I mean, this year's been really wonky. I feel like you usually have all these fun, cool things going on, and now I'm like just at home with my cute 2-year-old every day. But I'm going to try to start doing touring again as best as I can, with live stream concerts and whatnot, because obviously we can't be in person. But I also have a really big project coming up in the beginning of 2020. I can't talk too much about it yet, but I'm really excited about it. And I think it's a whole new thing I haven't done before. I've gotten the opportunity to do so many cool things in my career with YouTube, but also with Netflix and touring and books and all this cool stuff. And this is an avenue of this industry I've never touched on yet. So I'm really excited to go that route. And that'll start in January. So you'll know more about that soon. But yeah, who knows what's happening in the future. I feel like I've just been waiting around for this pandemic to be over to do things. And I'm finally at a point where I'm like, well, I guess I'll just do stuff from home then, because it doesn't look like this is changing anytime soon.
Awesome. Thank you, Colleen. Does anyone have any questions for Colleen about anything that she mentioned? Or just anything about stuff that you've watched of hers? Or obviously she just did a amazing fundraiser for childhood cancer and a live stream and a live stream concert as well. And if you'd like to check out the fundraiser, maybe Colleen could link it in the chat if it's still running. I know I was able to donate to it, which is awesome.
Oh, thank you so much.
Of course. But yeah, Colleen has been really awesome communicating with Nia and myself, and I've been watching her forever and have gained so much knowledge just about feminism from her, which you wouldn't think from just a YouTuber that you would. Thank you for linking that. Oh, I think it was just.
Let me fix that.
Sorry.
Actually, it's shocking that as someone who works on the internet, I'm really bad at technology. But there, I think.
No worries. Thank you.
I'm so bad at it.
So yeah, even I just want to also say Colleen actually was one of the reasons that inspired me to start reaching out to Nia and start this club, because I was watching Colleen's vlogs and saw everything that she was doing and talking about before the election and everything, and how important it was for women to like just be confident in ourselves and to start spreading that word and stuff. And even like we talked about in our last meeting, like feminism is not just for women, it's for girls, boys, anything in between, gay, straight, non-binary, everything and anything possible. And I think that's so important, and Colleen really touched over that. So yeah, that is just what I wanted to say about that. But does anyone have any questions for Colleen? No? Okay, well, Nia and I are actually getting the details together to do a giveaway with the fundraiser. So we'll be letting you guys know about that pretty soon. If you're not already in the group me, I'm sure you have my or Nia's contact information if you'd like to join our club group me. And yeah, just to wrap up, I can send a couple more events that we're doing for the 16 days of activism. And the fundraiser will still be going on until the 10th. So if you guys haven't already donated, no worries. If you'd like to, that's awesome. If you'd like to share the fundraiser or anything like that, you're totally welcome to. And there'll be a couple prizes for people who donate or spread the word. But yeah, Nia, do you have anything else to add?
I just want to thank everyone for being here, and thank you so much, Colleen. We need more people like you in the world doing good. And you truly are inspiring and a great role model for everyone to look up to. So we really do appreciate you being here. And also, hopefully, once Corona's over, we'll get to meet again because it's been so long. But yeah, just thank you everyone for joining this weekend early in the morning on a Saturday, and just for supporting Fours Up for Feminism and GNWP and all of that stuff. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much, Katrina and Colleen and everyone that came out from the different groups. I know we had some people from Labor Studies, the class that Nia and I are in, and some people from Fours Up, from Thank Yous to the girls that are supporting, and the boys here as well. But yeah. Does anyone have any last things to share?
I just want to thank you guys again for doing this. I think this is amazing. And there was nothing like this for me when I was a kid. And it makes me emotional, like that this exists now for young women, to see that there is hope for them and that there's hope for change for the future. It's really, really wonderful. And so I'm so proud of you guys. And I think this is amazing. And I know I'm excited for my son, and if I have any future daughters, that it gives me hope that there are people like you guys out there doing stuff like this to really make a difference. So thank you so much.
Thank you. We love you, Colleen. Thank you.
And I know Colleen and Katrina have inspired so many young girls, and hopefully you guys learned a lot from them. But yeah, thank you guys all so much for coming. Hopefully we'll be doing another event soon. But yeah, just a reminder, if you'd like to get more info about everything that Katrina mentioned, please reach out to Nia or myself, and we'll be happy to direct you to her. But yeah, thank you guys so much for coming, and hope you have a happy holiday season.
Thank you guys so much. See ya.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Katrina.
Thank you, Katrina.
You're welcome. Thank you again for the fundraiser and everything.
Of course.
Congrats on launching. I think you said you weren't allowed to launch yet, but congrats on launching.
What?
I don't know. You said something about the club and how you need to wait till the new year, I think.
Oh, yeah. For, to get the, actually club started. Okay, I need to end the recording. How do I do this?
Go back to the record option and you can click pause or stop.